Welcome back to Unscripted, TCU's signature sports talk show where we talk sports here on campus and around the globe. I'm Jake Brannen, and I'm joined by Alex Miller and Darius Adams. Guys, I want to start with talking about TCU Volleyball. They're 7-1 right now, ranked 9th in the country. It's our first top 10 ranking ever. Since we last filmed, they beat number 8 Texas A&M, and they went 3-0 in our Fight in the Fort tournament here at TCU. They only lost one set that entire tournament. Let me just get y'all's initial thoughts on this volleyball team right now.
Jason Williams got these ladies to play, and it's his 4th year in the program, and every single year it's been going up and up and up, and now this is the highest it's been. The last 2 seasons, second round appearances in the NCAA tournament, very, very good experience for those ladies, and now having them 9th in the country is insane. After the Penn State game, I thought this could be like just a big win, big upset. But now with wins over UCLA twice and A&M at home, this is not a fluke. Like, this team is going to be legit in the Big 12, and their non-conference schedule really helps with their resume of getting home court advantage for the NCAA tournament. And Evan Hendricks leading the team with 106 kills, only 5'9". It is insane. Jason Williams got these ladies to play. Darius?
These ladies are dominating. They're putting the nation on notice, and they've gone from a overlooked team to the early surprise team of the year. Now, as you mentioned, Alex, we saw them defeat Penn State, the reigning national champions, but they also defeated number 23 Missouri, and that was their 5th win over a ranked opponent on the year. They are the only team in the nation to do so far, and I agree with you. This is more than a lucky streak. They're beating quality championship caliber teams, and they are a definite threat for the national championship. I think everybody's balling, and I think that after the Jalen Gibson season-ending injury, we said, hey, let's just go ahead and throw the season out of the window. But we're seeing production from everybody on this roster. Becca Kelly, Sarah Sylvester, Lauren Murphy. These ladies are complementing each other perfectly, and they're playing complementary volleyball right now. And I'm very excited to see how this team performs for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, I like what you said about complementary volleyball. That's kind of the main thing I like about this team. They're not just getting production from one player, they're getting it from everybody. They had some crazy stat lines as a team in that tournament, as well as in some of their ranked wins that you guys mentioned. So do you all think they're set to go farther than they did last year?
I think they can. And by the way, as of this recording tonight, they are playing Texas right now, as of this recording. And they can do it again. I mean, the resume, it can get stronger and stronger. And I do believe if they do beat Texas tonight, they can really, really go far.
Yeah, well, we wish them the best of luck. They're playing right now. We'll have to see how they do. The NFL Week 2, incredibly eventful week. I want to start with Cowboys and Giants. Maybe shouldn't have ended up being a thriller, but it definitely was. What did y'all think about that game?
Hey, first of all, shout out to Brian Schottenheimer, first career win as a head coach, and really, really good for him. But I mean, Russell Wilson went absolutely crazy on the Cowboys secondary. 30 of 41, 450 yards. I mean, he looked like 2007 Tom Brady right there. It was truly insane. 3 touchdowns. That 1 interception, though, gave the Cowboys the win, though. So really, really huge deal. And again, the secondary for Dallas is concerning. After the Eagles game, it was like, okay, this team could be good. But now after the Giants game, where Russell Wilson diced up the secondary, it's a major concern. I don't know if it's a scheme issue or it's just the player issue. Darius, what do you think about it?
Definitely a player issue. I do agree. I was more optimistic coming out of the Eagles game than I was this past Sunday against New York. I go back to week 1. The main concern was the defensive front. We said, hey, even with the acquisition of Kenny Clark, man, Jalen Hurts dominated in the run game. It was just the Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley show. Now week 2, Russell Wilson dominates, throws for a career high 453 yards.
Again, we're going to see Caleb Williams running the ball probably this week for Dallas. So, again, got to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors dominated. Wandale Robinson dominated. It was just an incredible game from the New York Giants offense. But as I was saying with the defensive front, this game versus New York, they did limit the big run plays. Solomon Thomas, Kenny Clark had some big games. But the secondary for this Cowboys team will be the limitation of this roster.
Exactly.
The secondary is a disaster.
You can make both arguments about the scheme and players because this team has not ran zone really much since Dan Quinn left. Dan Quinn was all about man coverage and everything. They didn't really run zone a lot. I looked at something and said the Cowboys were 100% zone coverage in this game. It could be a scheme issue, but on the Malik Neighbors one to give him the lead at 25 seconds, I think that was a cover 4 type zone coverage. That is a player's fault. I think it may be a little bit of both, I think, for the secondary issues, I think.
Yeah, I think one player I have to call it has to be Trayvon Diggs. He's getting paid
1000%.
too much. He's getting paid too much to get cooked by Malik Neighbors and Rondell Robinson. He was a weak link in this game. Now, will we see some improvement for the remainder of the season? If I was a betting man, I would say probably not. DeRon Bland is going to be out for the next few weeks. So, as far as I'm concerned, if we do lose versus the Chicago Bears this Sunday afternoon, it'll be on the fault of the secondary. But I do believe that the acquisition and the signing of Jadeveon Clowney is A+ signing. You get extra help for the defensive front. He's the guy that can get to the quarterback. He still has some juice left. We're not asking him to be the next coming of Reggie White or Majon Green.
He nearly had 10 sacks 2 years ago. So, he still has something left in the tank.
But he can provide a lot of production to this defense as well. I believe the game versus Chicago is not a guaranteed win. As you said, Caleb Williams will probably dominate because he is a solid dual threat quarterback. Now, they have not lived up to expectations as I predicted back in episode 2, but they still have some weapons. They still have DeAndre Swift. They still have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet. They have a pretty solid offensive core.
Don't forget about Ben Johnson. Last time he played Cowboys, they won 47-9.
Exactly.
Never forget.
Exactly. Caleb Williams can make throws outside of the pocket, and I believe that this game, leading up to the Green Bay game in 2 weeks, will reveal the expectations going forward for the Cowboys defense for the remainder of the year.
100%. I'm totally with y'all about the concerns around their secondary. I think Russell Wilson looked way too comfortable throwing the deep ball on the road. I think giving up 37 points at home to the Giants in week 2 is something I'd be very, very worried about if I was a Cowboys fan. But I want to know what you guys thought about Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl rematch. What did you guys get from that game?
Well, the Eagles' defense is good. That's what I got from it. And the Chiefs just need better personnel, especially on the offensive side. You got Mahomes, you got Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice suspended, Xavier Worthy out. They're going to need someone. They're 0-2 for the first time since 2014. And Mahomes was decent. The one interception, though, that should have been caught by Travis Kelce. And I'm still arguing with the fact that we should have an interception stat that's based on how bad was it, a wide receiver should be counted.
Yeah, because that was not on Mahomes.
That is not on Mahomes at all, and it's still going to be on the stat line, which is sad.
Mahomes was also getting pressured the entire game.
Yeah, exactly.
The Eagles defense, I think, just did a great job at making him uncomfortable all 4 quarters. What did you think about it?
This was not an impressive win by Philadelphia by any means. The story of this game, the only story of this game, has to be the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning AFC champions, being going to. As you mentioned, this is their first 0-2 start since 2014. That was the last time they missed the playoffs. And this offense currently ranks 27th in success rate, and that is unbelievable for me. A team that has Patrick Mahomes, a team that has Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco. This team is lackluster on the offensive end. And I believe that this team will still be lackluster once Rashee Rice returns in, I believe, week 6 or week 7. They don't have the talent to compete with any of the top dogs in the AFC. And I'm looking at the AFC West. The Chargers are 2-0.
Hey, Chargers have looked really good so far.
The Broncos lost on the game-winning field goal to Indy.
It's a tough division.
It is. It's probably the toughest division in football.
This is not a cruise to the playoffs anymore for Kansas City.
No.
They have to earn their spot. And by the way this offense is looking right now, it is time for us to start asking the question, can the Chiefs actually make the playoffs? They're not Super Bowl contenders anymore. Let's just throw that out the window.
Ooh.
Let's just throw that out the window now.
After how many straight years? 3 straight years, I think?
Oh, it has to be more than that. More than that. But looking at their schedule going forward, they play Sunday night against the Giants. And as we saw versus this past Sunday, that game just isn't a gimme. Okay, Russell Wilson can still deal. Malik Neighbors is a baller. Rondell Robinson is not just a guy running around on the field. He's a great quality
He's not doing cardio anymore.
But I'm looking at the remainder of these games leading up to the bye week. You have Baltimore, Jacksonville, Detroit, Las Vegas, Washington, Buffalo, Denver, Indy, and then Dallas on Thanksgiving.
They don't have a bye week until after Thanksgiving?
Right.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That is a difficult stretch of games. And I believe right now it is time for us to start pressing the panic button for Kansas City. I don't think this is way too early predictions. This is just realistic expectations. The Kansas City Chiefs need to start preparing for doomsday.
I will say, though, because the Chiefs have done this before, like the past 2 years, they start off slow, and then they just go on a big winning streak. Now, however, last year they got a lot of luck in those games, but 2 years ago, started out slow, and then just went on a tear and won the Super Bowl. You never know about the Chiefs. You can never count out the Chiefs, even though I think this team just isn't that great on paper. You can never doubt the Chiefs because they have Mahomes. That's what I'll say.
I don't think that's the case this year. I believe the landscape of the AFC has gotten better. The reason why we said, hey, even though Kansas City is off to a slow start, the only reason why we said that they'll bounce back is because of the lackluster teams in the AFC West. The Chargers were not good. The Broncos were lackluster. The Raiders sucked. And I looked at and now in 2025, going into week 3, these teams are balling. Justin Herbert is a possible MVP candidate. Sean Payton is coaching the Denver Broncos back into championship caliber contention. The Raiders, although they'll probably finish last, they're not just a
They're
easy
going to be a
win.
scrappy team.
Exactly.
They're going to give teams a lot of
That's not
crap.
an easy win. And although 7 teams make the playoffs in the AFC, there are a lot of teams out there that are teetering on that mark to kind of sneak into the playoff picture right now. And Kansas City just doesn't have the talent offensively. You bring back Rashee Rice. He is not Jerry Rice. He is not T.O.
Okay.
He is not Megatron.
100%.
I think we knew that.
Even though he's probably the top wide receiver on this team, he cannot fix the problems of this offense. Just one player cannot turn this whole offense around, even with the talent of Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs are in trouble.
So I have a question for you on that. Are you trying to say you think the Chiefs are just not who they used to be, or do you think the rest of the division is just catching up?
Oh, they're not who they used to be. I said that back in episode 2.
Yeah.
They lack the talent. I'll say this time and time again.
I'll say both. Because the teams in the division have gotten way better than the past 9 years. Because, by the way, 2015 Broncos were the last team to win the AFC West other than the Chiefs. But I'll say both because obviously the Chiefs are not as good as who they are. And plus the other teams have gotten way better since then. So, yeah.
I'm going to agree with you. I also think it's both. I think they're getting older. They're losing some key talent, and I think the rest of the division, as you just laid out, is 100% catching up. Another huge storyline from this last week was all the injuries we saw to some star quarterbacks around the league. Are there any that stood out to y'all that you want to highlight first?
Joe Burrow, 1,000%. I mean, everyone can probably agree. 7 of 13, 76 yards, 1 touchdown before the injury. I mean, it was okay, but this Joe Burrow injury with turf toe, this is now a failure of the organization. This is not bad luck. This is a failure from the Bengals organization. They're one of the cheapest organizations in the NFL. It takes so long to sign their star players, but they never build the trenches. This offensive line has not been good at all since Burrow has been here. Look at the sacks allowed in a season in Burrow's career. 2020's first year, he basically just tore his knee. ACL, MCL, PCL. 48 sacks allowed, that's 5th in the league. Super Bowl team that somehow went to the Super Bowl. 55 sacks, that's 3rd in the league. 2022, 44, 13th. That is their highest or lowest ranking in sacks, 13th. 2023, 50, 8th. Joe Burrow also got hurt that year. 2024, 48, 12th. This is not a bad luck. This is a failure from the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting that they went and spent a lot of money on wide receivers. I just don't think they're spending nearly enough on the O-line to protect Burrow. I think if he keeps getting hurt, his career could potentially get cut short, and I would hate to see his talent get wasted.
And I will say, in the draft, I mean, when Burrow's been here, they have not drafted really much offensive line in the first 2 rounds. Yeah, they have in the later rounds, but your best players are usually from the 1st and 2nd round. They don't build. They always get like skill players. They don't build the trenches in the first 2 rounds.
You would think that'd be their priority.
Yeah, but they don't.
Well, is there any other injuries you wanted to highlight, or did you have anything on Burrow?
I want to highlight Joe Burrow right quick.
Okay.
This is the Andrew Luck situation on steroids.
Yep,
This season will mark the 3rd out of 6 seasons where Joe Burrow will miss significant time. And that is really concerning to me and to every football fan around the world. And I do agree with you. The Bengals have to admit their failure. But I will say this. I have to disagree with you. Even though they did pay a few players, they paid T. Higgins, they paid Joe Burrow, they paid Jamar Chase, they have tried to invest in the offensive line. They ranked in the top 3rd of the league in cap dollars dedicated to the O-line from 2022 to 2024.
So they're
They
spending
brought
on a
in
lot of players.
Orlando Brown, they brought in Lyle Collins, but it just has not worked.
What
They've
happened to those
tried.
guys?
They've put in the
Lyle
effort.
Collins got cut. That's what I know.
They cut him.
They've put in the effort. They've tried to improve the offensive line. They just don't work. It
That's
just
why I'm
doesn't
saying.
work.
That's why I'm saying. Build it in the draft and develop those rookie players and sign them to a large contract.
Now, since 2022, Joe Burrow has taken on the 3rd most sacks, the 7th most hits, and he's been the 2nd most quarterback since he was drafted in 2020, and he's being sacked on average nearly 3 times per game. I think the blame has to go to Cincinnati as an organization. Of course, they're one of the cheapest organizations in all of football. I do agree with you on that. But the blame also needs to go on Joe Burrow. It needs to go on T. Higgins. It also needs to go on Jamar Chase as well. The
They
Bengals
don't block.
The Bengals are spending approximately $124 million per year on 3 players alone. Cincinnati has never been this marquee free agency destination. Nobody wants to come to Cincinnati
No one
as a
does.
free agent. And while you're spending nearly $125 million per year on 3 players, you can't bring in quality players to fix that O-line problem. When you're spending that much money on just 3 players alone, that never allows room for winning football on a consistent basis. Now, although a huge chunk of the responsibility needs to go to Cincinnati as an organization, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins need to look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, I knew what I was getting myself into when I signed my name on that contract. They knew what they were getting themselves into. Blame needs to go all around this Joe Burrow situation. Is definitely unfortunate. But I also want to highlight the J.J. McCarthy injury. He was balling out in the second half versus Chicago in week 1. He had a little rocky start. He took the
I was
loss
about to question
on
you
Sunday
for a
Night
second.
Football week 2 versus Atlanta. But, man, just an unfortunate start to, a promising Minnesota team. Justin Jefferson was really liking what he was seeing from JJ, and now for the next few weeks, it's the Carson Wentz show.
You feel like that chemistry with them was just starting to pick up and get rolling. It takes a lot of game reps for them to really get that connection between receivers and quarterback.
Yeah, it is his
It's
first
always
year.
tough. It's always tough whenever a young quarterback gets hurt early in the season, and then they just have to basically hit the reset button.
Especially his rookie year, where
Yeah.
he was, what was it, the injury again? Like just obviously out for the year. I think it was like a leg injury.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to take time for J.J. McCarthy, I believe. But again, it's just sad.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because you're competing in a very difficult division. For me,
yeah.
I thought Detroit was going to fall off a cliff, but we saw what they did versus Chicago this past
yeah.
Sunday.
Man. They
You
were
know,
mad. They were very mad about the Packers game.
Green Bay has been balling. They're probably
I
the
think-
favorite in the NFC so far.
Oh yeah, they are.
So as far as
Yeah.
Minnesota goes, they're just in an awkward spot, and who knows how JJ is going to perform once he returns. But right now, I think it's just a huge question mark surrounding the Vikings for the remainder of the year regarding how long, despite how long JJ will be out for.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not going to get any easier for them in that division. It's always tough to see a week with so many injuries. I want to move on to college football. We had a huge week in college football as well. The first game I kind of want to start with was a pretty big game, Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech it was technically an upset. They were ranked lower. I think they just looked like the better team. What did y'all think of this game, and do you guys think Clemson are frauds?
Oh, absolutely. This season was supposed to be a season of vindication for Dabo Swinney, okay? Last year, they had their worst start since 2014. They were lackluster. They just did not perform up to expectations as a team.
Yeah.
And in the preseason, Dabo Swinney said something very interesting to me. He said that the Clemson Tigers would go 16-0. And I don't mean to call Dabo Swinney a liar.
1-2 so
A
far.
liar, but he knows better than to say that. This team just cannot compete with the top dogs anymore. We've always associated the Clemson Tigers to be a college football powerhouse, but I kind of put the Clemson Tigers in this same category as Alabama, as far as to the point where they don't have the fear factor anymore.
Okay.
Nobody is afraid of them, okay? Nobody's afraid to walk into Tuscaloosa anymore and play against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nobody's afraid to walk into Clemson and say, hey, I'm just scared of these folks. I know it's just an automatic loss. they have no weight when it comes to the conversation of becoming a college football powerhouse anymore. And I don't believe that Clemson can thrive in this current era of college football where you have the transfer portal. You know, Dabo Swinney is traditional.
That's holding them back.
Yeah, they're traditional.
That's holding them back from a championship at this point.
Yeah. Clemson is traditional. They're a traditional football program. They like to acquire players, recruit players from high school, bring them in and develop them, and try to keep them 4 years and just try to form a championship team. And the current landscape of college football, that just does not work anymore. Clemson entered this season as one of the favorites to win the college football championship. Right now, they have a 3.9% chance to make the college football playoffs. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? They have lost 4 of their last 5 games against Power 5 teams. This is just falling apart for Dabo Swinney, and I don't believe that he's on the hot seat just yet, but that seat is getting really warm right now for Dabo Swinney.
It definitely is. And I will say, credit to Georgia Tech. I think they're going to be a really good team this year. I think the schedule favors them after the Clemson game. And Haynes King, I really love Haynes King a lot. I'm just going to say that. I really love this kid. Super tough kid. Now, the one thing that kind of concerns me about Haynes King, not necessarily the player, but how many times he actually runs the ball. He had 25 rushes for 103 yards. Yeah, it was good, but that's a lot, and you can get injured from that. So that's my only concern about Georgia Tech right now, and a little hypnotoad in a hurry type field goal for Georgia Tech to win the game. And Georgia Tech, again, will be a good team in the ACC, but again, Clemson's offense is not good. I mean,
at all.
They have not scored 30 points this year, and you played Troy at home in Death Valley. I thought after the LSU game, I was like, okay, does LSU have a good defense? And right now LSU does. But Clemson has a more terrible offense than LSU has a good defense.
And Troy was supposed to be a reset for them.
What was the money? Well, how much was Clemson favored by in Troy? I mean, they were probably favored by 30 plus.
Had to be.
What was the score at halftime? Like just low scoring?
I just know they were getting booed in their home stadium.
Yeah, that's not good.
Halftime. That's never a good thing.
Nope.
Well, we also had a few other big games. Florida and Notre Dame both took big losses. A question I have for you guys is, do you think those big losses this week are season ending for either of those two teams?
Not Notre Dame. Not Notre Dame just yet. They've played well, but they've played great teams to start the year. Obviously, you played Miami, who looks like a college football playoff contender, a national contender, and you also played A&M, who I think have entered the SEC contender status, and they can compete for a championship. But again, it's not over yet. They lost to NIU last year, and we thought, like, oh man, this team's going to fall apart. They went to the national championship. You never know what's going to happen. The schedule does favor them, but if you want to make the playoffs, you have to win out the rest of the season if they do want a chance at the playoffs. Now, for Florida, on the other hand, the playoff hopes are done. Like, they are done talking about the playoffs. I mean, DJ Lagway was not good. Just put it at that.
Is it 5 interceptions?
5 interceptions against LSU. And they only lost by 10. Imagine if you take maybe 3 of those away. They might have a chance. And again, just not good. But the rest of the schedule is why I think the season's over. You have to go to Miami next game. You have to play Texas at home.
Yeah.
And then go on the road to Kyle Field and play A&M. And those are your next 3 games against top 10 teams. Yeah, I'm just calling it off. And you also got to play Georgia. You got to go to Oxford and play Ole Miss. You got to play Tennessee and then finish the season with number 7 Florida State. The playoff hopes are done, and at this point, I'm just wondering if they can even make a bowl game at this point. DJ Lagway has not been good at all. Yeah, I'm just worried about him.
Darius, what do you think
Even
about
after all the hype.
Notre Dame and Florida?
For Florida, I ruled out their chances again after the loss versus South Florida. They went from 13th in the preseason poll to now being unranked. It's just absolutely embarrassing what's going on in Florida. Billy Napier will be out of a job by the end of the year.
They're already calling for it, I think.
Yeah, probably.
What do you think? What, like October, November? What do you think?
I say probably by the Georgia or Ole Miss game.
Okay.
He's done. It's embarrassing. And as of right now, the season-ending loss was against South Florida. Mm-hmm. I look at that game versus LSU. They lost that game, and against while LSU didn't have their best performance offensively at all by any means. Florida is just in a state of crisis right now, and they're just done for the year.
You know your coach is going to be fired when you have to send out a statement after a loss in September. That's all I'm going to say.
Now, moving on to Notre Dame, I do agree with Alex. I have a lot of optimism for them. They are the first team to be 0-2 and ranked in the top 25. since the 1988 Michigan
That doesn't
Wolverines.
make sense to me.
Yeah.
But
And
okay.
that team went on to become the number 4th team nationally by the conclusion of that year. And as Alex mentioned, they lost to two great programs. They lost against Miami, they lost against
A&M.
A&M as well. But I do believe that, the hiring of Chris Ash was a mistake. Marcus Freeman made a terrible mistake with that hiring. Versus Miami and A&M, they allowed 68 points and 827 yards. Those are video game numbers. And you compare that to last season where they allowed only 15.5 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
They led the nation with 33 takeaways. They were third in the nation with 38 sacks. It's just a huge turnaround. And although you lost Al Golden, the defensive coordinator, because he transitioned to the NFL, it's just hard. It's just hard to really try to find identity of this team right now. And Marcus Freeman said that he's going to try to take control over this defense, but will that pay dividends going forward for the remainder of the year? Now they have a very, very favorable schedule. They have Purdue coming up, but they only face one ranked opponent for the remainder of the year, and that's number 25 USC. If they win out, they'll probably be in the college football playoffs because they're Notre Dame. They have the reputation, they have the coaching, they have a solid offense. The only big concern is the defense. But as of right now, I have a lot of optimism for this team right now, but this defense has to find their identity very, very soon. This Purdue game is a toss-up. If they lose this game, they're done.
100%. We've already touched on some of the bigger games this week. Just really quick, what do you guys think was the team that impressed you the most?
I would have to say Vanderbilt. They're 3-0
agree.
right now. They defeated number 11 South Carolina 31-7. They snapped a 16-game losing streak against them as well. They won by 24 points on the road. That's a statement win right there. And they forced 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble return. It's their first 3-0 start since 2016. And I believe that they can crank the top 25 right now. They put the nation on notice, and they haven't been ranked since 2013. I believe right now the way they're performing, they can kind of change. They can kind of turn that around, and I have a lot of hope for Vanderbilt going forward for the remainder of the year.
That's what I said. I said Vanderbilt as well, and I really like their defense and what they have right now. And the last 2 games in the second half, they have won by a combined score of 51-0.
Wow.
They have sent the fans home crying, basically, the past 2 games. And, I mean, they played South Carolina. South Carolina's number 11 in the country, and they beat them by 24 points. I mean, that is insane to think about. And they will go probably into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 5-0, and they are on the verge of making a bowl game and be 6-0. I mean, that is insane. You got Georgia State and Utah State next at home. I mean, I think this team can definitely contend. They're going to definitely cause a lot of problems. But the back half of the schedule that I saw, I mean, who knows about this team, but Vanderbilt really impressed me the most.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's been super impressive so far. Another team that really impressed me was Georgia, mainly because of their quarterback, Gunnar Stockton. It's his first year as the starter. There were still some questions around some of his abilities coming into this year, but he threw for over 300 passing yards in a huge rivalry game in Knoxville. That really impressed me. I honestly didn't know he could throw like that. I think they're going to be very scary going forward. That was one of the most exciting games of the weekend, Georgia versus Tennessee. Always a great rivalry. But enough of these other schools. Let's get to the game that happened on this campus.
Yes, sir.
TCU versus
yeah.
Abilene Christian. I feel like there's not too much to say here. It's a pretty big mismatch. We kind of just took care of business. Is there anything you guys liked or didn't like about what you saw?
I like that our offense stepped up with the starters. They didn't mess around. 6 for 6, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns. Really, really good. Josh Hoover, once again, fantastic. Really elite day. 21-27, 337 yards, 4 touchdowns. The offense did its job. They did well with the starters in. Now, the one thing that did concern me, though, is the secondary. You had many contested one-on-one battles with the corner and the wide receiver, and they just let the wide receiver catch them every single time. And also, giving up 400 yards to an FCS team. Now, I'm not discrediting ACU. They're a really good FCS program. But again, 400 yards at home, that is not good. And it just didn't have a great mindset, like Sonny Dykes said. Like, they just weren't focused heading into this game because obviously the game next week, SMU, can definitely mess with their mindsets. So, I mean, that's all I have to say.
This offense took care of business, as you said. They're proving why they're one of the top offenses in the nation. And I'm starting the Josh Hoover for Heisman hype train
Man,
right
I've been
now.
starting it since the off season.
You know, he's had an incredible performance. 4 touchdowns, 337 yards. Ed Small had an incredible game as well. 6 receptions, 45 yards, 2 TDs. Very impressed by this offense. They were 9 of 10 on third down while Hoover was in the game. 5 different players found the end zone. And that's one thing I was really impressed about by this offense. It's a lot of diversity within this offense. It's just not Dawson McAllister. Everybody's getting involved, and that's one thing I really like to see. Now, as you mentioned, I'm very concerned about this defense. Now, although they had an elite performance in the first half, ACU came out after halftime and they performed like they were the 2020 Kansas City Chiefs. You know, just
Interesting.
you know, getting in the end zone every single time. They scored on every second half possession. And mind you, in the first half, they had a lot of chunk plays that got brought back due to penalties.
And also missed field goals as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be 28-6 at halftime, and that could really sound the alarms.
It could have been a different story if, you know, they performed better in the first half. But I believe the TCU secondary got exposed, and they have to do better. Allowing 450 plus yards against an FCS team is absolutely inexcusable. And you add that as well with another 46 yards with the penalties. They just have to do better. ACU dominated the time of possession. They controlled the ball for 36 minutes.
Dang.
They had 27 first downs, 12 of 17 on third downs. The defense has to get off the field. And this was a very, very concerning performance, considering the fact that this weekend you have a rivalry game against SMU. And this is a game that I believe will reveal the identity and expectations for this team going forward for the remainder of the year. This is the game for the Horned Frogs to prove to the world why they should be a top 25 ranked team in the nation.
Yep.
Well, before we fully preview what we're looking for versus SMU, we have a really cool story. We're going to kick it out to Maddox Judy talking about her grandfather's impressive TCU football career.
Thanks, guys. Today, I have the privilege of telling you a little bit about TCU Hall of Fame quarterback and my grandfather, Mr. Steve Judy. After receiving numerous Division I offers, Judy ultimately chose to play for the Horned Frogs. He began his football career at TCU in 1968 on the freshman squad, as first years were not allowed to be on varsity at that time. The 5-game schedule consisted of games against Texas A&M, Baylor, North Texas, SMU, and Texas, where Judy made all Southwest Conference both ways at quarterback and led the conference at safety with 5 interceptions. My grandfather's sophomore year symbolized the beginning of his journey as a 3-year quarterback starter on the varsity squad, where he achieved many great accomplishments. When I asked Judy something special about that team, he said that he had some great teammates, especially receivers, that helped break passing records set by Davey O'Brien and Sammy Bell, which had been standing for over 30 years. Within these 3 years of Judy's varsity career, the Horned Frogs were pretty good, going 3-0 against Texas A&M and Baylor and 2-1 against Texas Tech, Rice, and SMU. However, they were less fortunate against Arkansas and Texas, going 0-3. During Judy's senior season in 1971, tragedy struck during the Baylor game when the Frogs head coach, Jim Pittman, had a massive heart attack on the sideline. After being immediately rushed to the hospital, the team learned of the horrible news that he had passed at halftime. Steve Judy said that it was a very emotional second half with players wiping away tears. They were very fortunate to pull out the win amongst such grief. His senior year, they finished 6-4-1, 5-2 in conference play, and only 1 game behind Texas, who won the conference. After asking my grandpa about one of his biggest successes, he informed me that after his senior season, he was awarded the Dan D. Rogers MVP ring and was selected to play in both the Blue-Gray Class All-Star Game in Montgomery, Alabama, as well as the All-American Bowl All-Star Game in Tampa, Florida. In 1985, Steve Judy was inducted into the TCU Letterman's Hall of Fame, and he described the event as a very special moment for his family. Back to y'all in the studio.
Thanks, Maddox. Well, TCU football has the huge rivalry game against SMU coming up this Saturday here in Fort Worth. I want you guys to kind of take me through why this game is so big for our schedule and what you guys think some of the key points in this game are going to be.
I'll start with the keys to the game. I think first one, obviously, you've got to win the one-on-one battle on offense and defense. Obviously, last game, the corners just got beat. They let up every contested ball, and you have to win those battles. Kevin Jennings is going to sling the rock, go deep, and try to make those contested plays, and they have to win it. I mean, it's not just corners. I mean, offensive line as well. You got to win the blocks and just win the one-on-one battle in general. Next, contain the edges, especially for the pass rush. Just like Gio Lopez, he's going to want to run and scramble out of the pocket and extend the play. And they did well in that with Gio Lopez. Kevin Jennings, though, probably a lot better than Gio Lopez right now. So again, you have to contain the edges and trap Kevin Jennings so he doesn't scramble out. And then finally, Jeremy Payne, the Payne train, has to come alive in this game. Obviously, Barnes is questionable for the game because he got injured in the ACU game. Jeremy Payne and Trent Battle, by the way, are going to have to step up in the run game and provide some support for the TCU offense, and those are my keys to the game. And it's just really important. This is the last Iron Skillet we will see in a long time. They're pausing the rivalry, and yeah, make sure you just pack the Carter, and hopefully we get the dub.
Yeah, I mean, obviously huge just because we want to go out on a good note, at least for a while, with this rivalry matchup. I do also agree with what you said about Kevin Jennings. I think it's going to be a lot to try to contain a quarterback who can throw but can also scramble really well. I'm going to be interested to see how this TCU defense attacks that. Darius, what are your keys to the game?
Right now, I have TCU winning 38-31.
Okay.
Right now.
All right.
Obviously, SMU is 2-1. Their one loss came against a collapse against the Baylor Bears. Now, obviously, they had a Cinderella run last year. Even though they had a quarterback change last season, they still made the college football playoffs. But right now, I believe TCU has a bitter taste in their mouth from last season. They're seeking revenge. We all know they lost 62-44. Sonny Dykes gets ejected. We all know the story. Okay?
Yep.
And I believe that right now that this is their first real test of the season. I said this back in the ACU preview. This TCU team needs to prove to the world, to the nation, that they're a contender for the college football playoffs. I believe it. The world needs to know that. We believe it on this panel that they have the talent offensively. Josh Hoover, to us, is a Heisman candidate, but the nation needs to put on notice and know his name. Okay, I believe that this offense will continue to be explosive as long as they dominate the line of scrimmage, as long as Josh Hoover protects the football, limits the turnovers. This offense will do what is needed in order to put points up on the board. But once again, this defense has to show up. As you mentioned, Kevin Henry Jennings can put up numbers. He can exploit an offense at any time, and he's a great dual threat quarterback dating back to his days at South Oak Cliff. But I do believe that this SMU team is vulnerable. And when I look at that Week 2 game against Baylor, we saw their immaturity as a team. They blew a 14-point lead with 6 minutes left remaining in the game. Okay, the kicker missed multiple kicks.
To win the game,
they couldn't make stops at all. They couldn't make stops at all. So right now, considering the immaturity of a team in SMU, right now I have TCU winning. Right now, this is their first real test of the year, and I believe that they will show up, they will perform, and they will live up to expectations to have TCU winning 38-31.
I forgot to give my prediction. I think TCU wins 33-28.
Okay.
It's going to be high scoring.
So, yeah, all three of us are in agreement. We all think it's going to be high scoring. I have my score prediction as 35-28 for TCU. I do think that loss to Baylor from SMU takes away a lot of the intimidation factor, especially coming off of what they were able to do last year. They've already shown a lot of vulnerability, so that's probably a lot of the film that TCU is watching is how Baylor was able to exploit their weaknesses, and I guess we're going to look to recreate that this week. Do you guys have any final thoughts on this?
It's a rivalry game. Throw every stat out of the window. It doesn't matter. This is a rivalry game. Each team's going to go at it 100%. I know the vulnerabilities of both teams that you can point out, but it doesn't matter. You can't win a game on paper. You win it on the field. So, yeah, both teams are going to play at it 100%, and that's all I have.
Well, the game's set for 11 a.m., a bit of an early kickoff. Hopefully, we can all get up in time and get there early because I know it's going to be packed.
Hey, I'll be there when the gates open. I'll be there really early for this game.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this game. I'm excited for my first TCU rivalry as a TCU student. So
it's gonna be so good
right now.
It's gonna be so good.
That's what I like to hear. Well, with that being said, that's all we have for this week. Make sure to follow us on all our socials at TCU 360. I'm Jake Brannen, joined here by Alex Miller and Darius Adams. We'll see you right back here next week.